Welcome to Own the Season podcast. We will talk to industry insiders along with outdoor enthusiasts to help you own your season. Now let's join hosts Art and Michelle Helen with Brad Jones.
Hello and welcome to Own the Season podcast. I'm Michelle Helen along with Art, and today we have one of our team members, Derrick Warner, joining us. Hey, Derrick.
Hey, how's it going?
Good to see you. So you're kind of new to the team. We're glad to have you. And you've got 3 little ones. You're raising three kids. Why don't you talk to us about being a dad to those littles?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have 3 kids, 8, 5, and 2. So that's a fun chore, especially when you're trying to get all of them into the outdoors. I have 2 boys and a daughter. My boys, they pretty naturally fell into love with outdoors. And so it makes it pretty easily because they're very well convinced at what we got going on and what we do and stuff like that, just like I was at a young age. My daughter, she's getting into it, but I think just a few things I got to change and how I'm getting her involved and stuff like that will make it a little bit easier for her to kind of transition into the outdoors. She loves going. She gets bored easily. She is too.
Oh, yeah.
So
she's still little.
She's little, but she's a joy to have around. So absolutely. I know when we had our first son, one thing that I did a lot with him, he was the only child, so I was able to get him out one-on-one. When we had 2, it was kind of trying to figure out how to make it happen with both of them. So I need to get one-on-one time with my middle child.
Sure.
Who is my middle child now, I should say. And then once we have my daughter, I need to start getting more one-on-one time with her, but just different avenues. So
yeah, but that's hard. It's work to do that, like you said, because you have to find somebody to be watching those others. They're not old enough to be home alone.
Exactly. And being the single dad of 3, it is hard. So that's why they usually all go with me, and we try to make the best of it with what we can have. But I know I usually see a guy out in the river when I go fishing with them all. He'll drive by me shaking his head, and he's just like, props to you, man, for taking them all 3, especially at that young age,
Oh, fishing line, fishing with littles is always interesting. There's like snags and,
lots and lots of
backlash,
snags.
That's fishing line.
Yep.
Yeah, it's they're not, I'm sure you're teaching the boys, pretty early, but they're usually, not baiting the hooks themselves, not taking the fish off, or not so good at that.
Yep.
So they need help with absolutely everything.
And that's the good thing right now. My oldest is 8. He pretty much does a lot on his own as far as baiting his hook and stuff like that. He still needs help taking the fish off occasionally, but he's even doing that. My 5-year-old, he can cast and do whatever with pretty much an open face, closed face, whatever we're using. So that's getting good. He tries to put his own bait on. He still needs a little help, but he does it pretty well. So it's good to have that they're that independent towards that, so I can kind of focus on her.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's 3 different levels. You're trying to teach him, my oldest, to do something different at a higher level, and then go back down to just the basic level for my daughter. So
yeah, sure.
In defense to the 2-year-old, is I get bored pretty easy too, and so hats off to you trying to keep them entertained and do that stuff because, I am, you're talking about fishing right now, and I love to fish. I do a lot of walleye fishing, smallmouth fishing, muskie fishing, and I grew up pan fishing and stuff, but I have a really hard time ice fishing and a really hard time pan fishing because I can't sit in that one spot. I can't sit in a boat in one spot with a bobber out. If nothing's biting in 30 seconds, I'm reeling it in and I'm like, okay, we need to move. That's why I like bass fishing, walleye fishing, muskie fishing, because we're always moving the boat. We're always casting, doing something, right? And so, like I said, props to you for doing that because I, even at my age, have a really hard time staying focused and doing what I need to do as far as that goes. So I can't imagine what it's like, with a 2-year-old that doesn't want to, doesn't have the patience for it. And then you have the 2 boys that want to go gung-ho and run wild in the boat. So I don't know how you do it, man.
It's tough. But like I said, it's like you said, fishing is one thing. Hunting's a whole different story. And that's, we can get into that more. But fishing, I try to find spots where they're going to get bites because you got to keep them interested. Even spots where we can catch fish, pretty much all day long. But if there's a 10-minute gap or even a 2-minute gap for my daughter, she's turned around and she's like, Dad, I want to go home. And I'm like, oh man, this is rough. We just got here 10 minutes ago. Like, my boys and my oldest, he's getting more into spinner fishing and stuff like that. So he's doing more casting. And like you said, you're always doing something. You're always casting. You're looking for that fish rather than throw a bobber out and wait, or bottom fishing, for catfish and stuff like that. So certain types of fishing, but they're all, kind of getting into it in their own way. I know my oldest, he likes to just venture out and like for catfishing, even, like we'll always bring a spinner rod with, because if we're along the banks and a smallmouth starts hitting minnows along the bank, it's like, well, get your spinner out there and get that fish, so there's always something to do.
Nice. And, sometimes with the littles, and maybe with this is true with your daughter, you just take some other things along to kind of occupy their time too.
Right.
To help with some boredom. Have you found some things that have worked for her?
There's, as far as like her, like my boys, even I'll bring something for my boys. Like my oldest, he likes books, so he'll read a book or look at a book. My middle 5-year-old, he'll bring some sort of tractors if we're in the blind or whatever, or even fishing, And since we're on the river, there's tons of sand, so we bring some sand toys with. If there's a break, we try to get them off in the sand, and they're having a great time playing in the water and playing on the sand. So
yeah, just digging in the dirt and sand.
Yep.
Well, I know inquiring minds out there want to know, because we're in farm country. Are they green tractors, blue tractors, or orange tractors that they're bringing along, or red?
It just depends. I know it's usually green or red for us. I'm not in any particular case to say either or, but yeah, they're kids. They like whatever is a tractor and whatever they can play with. So.
All right.
They're not being convinced by other family members.
No, I have a friend that's all red, and I have they have an uncle that's all green. So I mean, they're pulled both ways. But they kind of let them decide. So
fun.
Nice.
Well, that daughter, I mean, all your kids are cute, but that daughter, her grin, she's just got this cheesiest little grin. She's always smiling.
Yep.
I mean, I'm sure maybe she's cranky sometimes, but it just seems like she's
a woman. She's gonna be cranky once in a while.
Watch it, mister.
She gets cranky, that's for sure. That's part of the process that people don't see. Obviously, we don't go posting tantrums online and stuff like that.
Exactly.
So there's the tantrums along with the good, but you kind of got to take it as it comes.
They sure are cute. So we've been seeing you doing some ice fishing too. You've been having some luck.
Yeah, I've been doing all right on that. I'm not a big ice fisherman, but I've been getting into it more and more over the years, just for something to do. And I know my kids, my boys enjoy doing it. Several years ago, actually, I had like 2 years where I didn't go, and I'm like, there's no sense in me having this stuff. I barely go as it is. I sold it all. The very next year, my oldest was like, Dad, we got to go ice fishing. So I'm like, I started buying stuff again, and they've been going, and I've been trying to find areas. And that's the hard part is open water. It's a little easier to find fish. I can pattern them a little bit better. But ice fishing, I'm still trying to figure it all out and stuff like that, because even I go out, and yesterday I did that fishery, and all morning didn't have any luck myself. There was lots of people and stuff. The fish kind of shut down, but I moved and went to a different spot where I've had luck before and ended up catching some fish. So some perch, bluegills, and some bass. So,
and it's it's a great sport. I don't really do it anymore. One, I don't have the time to be out there ice fishing again. I used to do it when I was younger, and I absolutely loved it. But technology today is so much different than when I was a kid, growing up. We had, if you had an auger that was 6 inches, you were like, awesome, this is, huge. Now, you can get all different size augers. You can get, gas-powered augers. You can get them run by your hand drills. I mean, there's a million different things. There's new tip-ups, new technology, but, there's also, your fish finders, just like in a boat. Now you drill a hole and you pop that thing down there and you look around and okay, there's no fish, so you move. But that all takes money. And so, I don't know if you're into that technology yet, or if you're like, you know what, I'm still going to do it old school and go out and do my stuff and show the kids that things can be done, old school way without the technology that there is today. I know there's a lot of guys that won't ice fish without the technology, and I've seen them on live scope where they're like, hey, oh no, that fish is too small, and they pull the bait up because they don't want to catch it.
That's almost like no fun anymore. That's like part of the mystique of ice fishing is like the surprise of what you pull up out of that hole. But I think like to what Art was saying, and you like having had sold all your gear, and then getting back into it, what are those essential like must-haves? What did you start with when you started reacquiring your ice fishing gear?
First thing I did was found an auger. I mean, you can't fish through the ice if you ain't got a hole. So I bought just a cheap 5-inch hand auger. I know 8-inch is preferred in most people. I guess I don't have the luxury of pulling out trophy fish every time. So, but I do my best. But eventually. So I bought the hand auger. I bought just a few poles and a couple tip-ups, just something that put tip-ups out so that way, you have some extra lines out since we're allowed 3 here in Wisconsin. It's good to have them out, and kids can chase after the flags if they go up, which they enjoy doing. So there's the poles, the tip-ups, and then the hand auger. I mean, that's essentially all you really need. I mean, if you're just trying to find fish. Most lakes and sloughs, I would say, around here, you can go without a Vexlar or the... live scope that you're talking about, because it's 4 feet of water. I mean, you drop your jig down to the bottom and start working your way up. That's what I do anyways, and tend to get into bluegills if they're there. If they're not there, you'll know. So
right.
What about with the kids, what about an ice shanty? What about trying to keep them warm? There's so many different ice shanties out there today. There's myself, if I was going to ice fish, I would probably, until I got used to it, take out, one of my pop-up blinds, my turkey blinds, just to keep the wind off me and throw a little heater in there.
Right.
And away you go, So does that work, or do you really need...
I wouldn't say you need an ice shanty. I mean, there's nice days where you can get out there with the kids. You may not be out there as long as you want to be out there, but you can get out there. I don't have an ice shanty right now, so I've been looking, but I just have a tough time dropping money on it. Sure. Obviously, a lot of things are big money nowadays, but like you said, when I was younger, my dad and I used to go ice fishing before shanties and the flip overs were a big thing. My dad one day was like, why don't we just take our blind out there, our turkey blind out there, and pop it up? Like, it's the same thing. So we did that, and we stayed warm, before you started seeing all these big ice shanties come out and everything. And I've actually done that with my kids a few times over the last couple of years because, like I said, I just haven't found one that I want. I mean, they have the pop-ups where you pretty much pop them up, stake them down, and you're stuck there unless you're really going to make a big move. I like to move around a little bit more and stay on the fish. I've found fish go in cycles. They come through and they kind of make their loop around where I figure that a little bit of that out over the years and whatever. So I'm trying to find a flip over to just mainly for the heat for the kids, so they can, if they do get cold, they can get into something and stuff. And if you're not fishing a big area, a pop-up blind is probably, or a pop-up ice shanty is probably fine. You can put the heater in it and they can go in and out as they want. So
I feel like I've done some ice fishing with my folks when they were down on the river. I never got into it as much as they did either. I mean, my grandparents like ice fished, just like my grandpa's, so I was ice fishing as a small child too. One grandpa sat on a bucket, out on the river, and the other one, borrowed a friend's like wooden ice shanty that he, had out on the lake with a heater, a stove in that, too. Yeah. But going with my mom and dad, like Dad had a little shanty that he would, put up, and then our kids, like, were always wanting to be in with Papa, because not only was it, maybe a little warmer. This was a nice day. It was a sunny day, so we were fine outside as well. But the snacks, I feel like that's the one thing with kids too.
That's where the snacks
no
are
matter
at.
what you're doing, if you have enough snacks to keep them occupied, you can keep them out a little longer too.
Yeah, that's kind of the main thing too is, the essentials. I mean, water. I mean, you'd be surprised at how dehydrated you get out on the ice, especially if you're out there all day. I do it all the time, and I still don't take enough water with me, but you get so occupied in what you're doing and everything. But yeah, I mean, we started out when we did eventually get an ice shanty. My dad did. It was one that you had to fold out, and you drilled the holes, and it wasn't a flip over, it wasn't a pop up and everything, and it was more vertical and it was wider long. So if you're out there on like a 20-mile-an-hour day wind, it's like you get out of the blind and out of the ice shanty and bad things happen. I tell you what, I picked up enough ice to tackle over the years to realize that there's better ways to go about it. So.
Sure.
Well, I mean, and that's it. You talk about that wind. I suppose right now, if you went over to Lake Winnebago and you went to the East Shore, you could probably find a pile of ice fishing shanties all stacked along that shoreline that blew all the way across. I don't know if you saw that on the news the other night.
Know.
But with the 50-mile-an-hour winds, there were guys out there, and they were videotaping. It was like ice shanty after ice shanty after ice shanty blowing across the ice. One lady was videotaping it from inside her house, and she's like, "It's going to hit our boathouse. I know it's going to hit our boathouse." And it veered just to the left of the boathouse and smashed into the bank. And she goes, "Well, that didn't really bust up or anything, so that was kind of anticlimactic."
Right.
Like,
No
wow.
kidding.
Well, look at, was it last year or 2 years ago they had that big squall
Yeah.
too, and visibility was poor, and like shanties, things were blowing around, and people like were stepping into holes. And
Yeah, that's the problem. I mean, you get the bigger lake is,
Crazy.
the wind seems like it like doubles. I mean, it might be only 30 miles an hour, but it seems like it's 60 out there.
yeah.
And people are crazy, and they love the ice fishing, but I'm just like, I don't know. I mean, if I don't have a nice shanty and it's not attached and we're not catching fish, I got things I can really be doing, you know.
He's worse
Yeah.
than a kid, I think. I think he's
like-
worse than a kid.
I like I said, I used to love it and I used to love to be out there, but it just now I'm like, all right, it's an hour gone by and I've stared down the same hole for an hour. Let's go figure something else to do,
Yeah.
you know. But
And that's kind of the thing is when I first started out, and even now, it's like if you do get the basic equipment, it's harder to move around. You know, who wants to drill 10 hole or even 8 holes in a 1.5 foot ice?
Right.
And when you have them, I mean, I did that a couple years ago with my boy, and I mean the handle was just about hitting the ice, and I drilled a lot of holes that day, but it was worth it just for the experience, and we caught some fish, and my boy had fun. So
Yep, that's what's important too. Like you said, keep them having fun, so
Yep.
they want to be outside.
Yep,
right?
for sure.
And it doesn't even matter if the fun they're having is with the primary activity that you're out there to do, or they're just having fun with those other things that are occupying their time and
Right.
digging in the dirt and
Yep.
just seeing nature and experiencing things.
And that's usually how it goes. Even during the summer, we go fishing. Dad, we going fishing? Like, I want to play in the sandbar again. And I'm like, okay, we'll go fishing. But
Right.
For me, I mean, I could get into ice fishing if I went and got one of those, trailers that you take out on the ice. And when you get out there, you hit a button and it lowers down.
We're kind of all about
It's got-
comfort at this
it's
age.
yeah,
got beds in there and fridge and stove and TV. And I mean, now something like that, all right, I could get into that kind of ice fishing,
That's kind of just more like watching TV is the primary goal, and then there's a pole over there.
Yeah.
yeah. I
There's a
mean,
fish on. So,
my dad's the same way. He came when ice fishing with me a few weeks ago when I caught some perch in the Mississippi, and I was out there all day, and he only came up for half the day, and it was windy. I just kept my back to the wind the whole time. But he's like, "How are you out here for so long?" I'm like, "You did the same thing when you were 20." Like,
Yeah.
exactly, and that's it. As we get older, I found that out even in the tree stands. I mean, I remember back in the day, when deer hunting, I would sit. It didn't matter. Ice storms where I remember we had to call people to chisel me out of it because I couldn't get down the steps because there was so much ice. And part of that was because I would sit there and I wasn't going to see any deer, but I thought it's going to quit, right? And it just never quit. Well, then I looked like an icicle. I was frozen, ornery, mad when I got out of the stand. But a lot of times I'd have to call somebody and say, hey, you know what? Can you come over here and, bust me out of here? I'm going to fall all the way out of the stand.
Yeah.
And I think I don't want to say not as smart at 20 years old because we are, or 25 years old. I don't know if
Not why. I think it's not necessarily.
not being smart.
Wise. You don't have
Right.
the life experience, and maybe it's a little bit of so the wisdom isn't there, which is normal. I think there's also this just I can't come up with the word, not invulnerable, but invincible. There's also this invincibility that
I'm still
is
invincible.
out there. I know.
yeah.
But you
I
seem
mean,
to have like 20 lives. Cause
yeah. When we're younger, it's like nothing's gonna faze me. But then I mean, my dad's all about his drive. When he was first getting into hunting, I mean, he didn't grow up in a hunting family, so he kind of figured it out on his own in his late teens, and then he started to raise me and stuff. And I was the only boy in the house, so I mean, he was gung ho about hunting, and he got me so involved with it. And I mean, it blew my drive for it out of the window. So it was like he wanted to do it, and at the time, he was showing me, and that's all I saw out of it, and really he was out there making the memories, and sometimes it's a lot of hard work to make the memories, but it's worth it.
It is. And again, as we get older though, we see these things and we're like, okay, yeah, you know what? I want that comfort. I want these things.
Yep.
Well, and when you get older, we have some more income that we can spend on some of those comforts.
Right.
Too,
yeah.
And that's true. And I think part of it too is when you grow up in those families, hunting and stuff, is you're trying, and I don't know if impress is the right word, but show those mentors that you can do it. Mm-hmm. I can do it. I can stay out there in this.
You have to prove yourself, prove you're tough.
Yeah.
Or something.
That you're proving a point that I'm doing this for you, Dad, or you, Mom, or whoever you're hunting with, your uncles, your brothers. That no, I can do this. I can stay in these elements and I can survive. Now I look at it and go, you know what? I did those things. I went through those elements. I survived. Now I'm going to go sit in a blind with a heater and I'm going to enjoy myself.
Yeah. There's no reason to prove it anymore.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep. And that's my dad.
Done that. Yeah.
There was mornings where I'm like, "Did you go deer hunting this morning?" He's like, "No." He goes, "It was cold out." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah.
Well, that's good. But
and his dad, Art's dad, isn't even really wanting to get up in the mornings. He'd rather just get up in the afternoons, or get up in the midday. Doesn't want to get up, before the sun anymore. And he wants to be comfortable and warm too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He
Absolutely.
does, and that's it. Even like turkey hunting, he'll call and he'll be like, season starts tomorrow for me, and have you been getting any pictures of any turkeys in any of the fields in the morning? Because if you got fields where they're there in the afternoon, I'm thinking that, and I'm like, Dad, you want to hunt in the afternoon only? Yeah, you got any birds in the afternoon? Yeah, Dad, I know where there's birds in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll do that then.
Yeah.
So.
And bless his heart,
Yeah.
Right, and it just depends on what you're into, I mean, turkey hunting, my dad's all for. He's gung-ho about it, always has been, just like deer hunting as well. But I know my dad, as far as deer hunting, he's willing to try new things. We're like, at my age, I'm still like set in certain ways. I got to be there before sun up. I got to do this and that. There was a year that he killed that big buck with the gun, but earlier that year during the rut with the bow, he ended up having several encounters with this big buck we were after for a couple of years, and he wasn't getting out to a stand until 10 o'clock in the morning. He'd sleep in because, he does work second shift, and he's kind of used to sleeping in and getting up that time anyway, so, it's that factor. Mm-hmm. But then just the matter, he's like, you know what, I haven't been seeing any deer in the morning. Why am I even going out? So he changed it up and started seeing bucks. So
yeah, you can kind of like hunt. It's like the hunt smarter, not harder kind of thing. And to like your dad and your dad too, I kind of keep saying the same thing out here. Well, with deer hunting, I have not shot a deer my first deer out here was shot in the morning, like 9 o'clock in the morning. And I think you've shot maybe 2 deer in the morning out of all the years, and every other deer out here has
more than 2 deer in the morning.
Been an afternoon or evening. They've the vast majority of deer out here have been shot in the afternoon and evenings. In the turkey hunting, maybe it's changed in just recent years, but in general, like the turkeys aren't roosting on our property here, so we're not going to shoot them at 6:30 or 7 in the morning, right? Right at sunup, here either. So kind of like, why get up and get out there when then maybe you might be leaving the woods because, you're getting cold, maybe, you're antsy and, bored or whatever, and you're going to end up leaving just, when the animal's going to be coming in, where if you go out later, you'll be there.
I'm usually hungry and need to go to Country Kitchen for breakfast.
Well, maybe we go to breakfast at 7 and then go hunting. Flip it around.
Yeah, there you go. Turkey hunting for sure. I know.
Priorities.
Yeah.
Got to get.
I know deer hunting. I'm set in the way. Like my dad's like, I've been seeing more deer in the middle of the day, and I'm like, yeah, I can see that, and I'm like, but what if? What if? I'm like, I'm gonna sit out there all day and starve, and then not see them. Where I may not be that way in 20 more years. So.
That's the same way I am, man.
Yeah.
It's you're not going to kill from the couch. Right. You got to be out there.
Right.
You got to put in your time, and go sit. And because it only takes 1 minute.
Yep.
You know, and that's the thing. And sometimes I have to be reminded of that because it takes 1 minute. And, you know, there's a lot of times because of what we do with the TV show and everything else, we're traveling, we're hunting. You know, now we even go east and we hunt in the summertime. We hunt, you know, for bow fishing stuff. Then we start as early as we possibly can. We hunt as late as we can. I mean, I didn't get done until like the 18th of January this year or later. And I think we went till the 31st of January here this year. And, you know, it just, you have to tell yourself at some point in time, because you're burned out, you're tired, you're cranky, and you got to tell yourself, but it only takes 1 minute to change your entire season.
And you never know when that minute's going to be.
Right.
Yeah.
And it could be in the morning. It could be in the evening. And like Michelle says, you know, you look at statistics, most of your biggest deer are killed between 10 and 2 p.m. during the rut. Then the next is from 2 o'clock till dark. You know, so there's a small number that's killed in the morning. And can it be done in the morning? Sure. I mean, I've seen, you know, a couple of my buddies that hunt with me out here, they've killed them in the mornings. I've shot some deer in the mornings, but it's, she's right. I mean, all my, I think, best deer that I've ever killed, I might have killed one of my booners in the morning, but everything else, I mean, the rest of all those big deer, they're all in the evenings, you know, or middle of the day.
Right. Yep. And even I've noticed that with the big ones I've gotten, you know, I've had some good morning hunts, you know, and I've gotten some nice deer, but like you said, some of the bigger bucks I've had chances at and have been, you know, afternoon. So
it's, you know, but you just never know when.
Exactly. You just don't know, and that's what's on my mind all the time. So.
And if you got the time, you know, go ahead and go out, you know. I guess we don't need to feel bad if we can't go out in the mornings.
Right.
Or like for us, like if not going out from like dawn to dusk or like going out in those early mornings a lot, if saving that and saving yourself that extra, you know, loss of sleep or hour or time away from, you know, time off work or whatever, if that helps you like extend your season and not get burned out, you know, later for like the long haul, you know, then I guess, you know, people can feel like you can do that and you know, you maybe aren't giving up too much.
Right.
If something has to give.
Yeah. And as long as you're not burning out your spot, you know, pushing it on the wrong wind or something like that, and really pushing the deer out of there when they're not there anyway. So why are you going in? As long as you're not bumping them, I think it's perfectly fine. Definitely.
We tend to not go on the larger food plots, you know, in the mornings because they're going to be feeding. They're still feeding.
Right. Yeah.
So we do avoid those areas for sure.
Especially early season. So, but you know, you're talking about making adjustments and burning out your spots and all that. So, and I know, you know, your daughter's not hunting yet, but the oldest boy, you know, we've seen him on film a few times, you know, getting it done a few times. So how do you adjust where you hunt, when you hunt, how long you hunt, different things, both turkey and deer, you know, with someone that's so young? Because Derrick Jr. is 8.
He'll be 9 this year. Yep.
Yeah. And so, and he's been hunting for 2 years now.
Yep, turkeys. Yep.
Turkeys. And so, and is it first year?
First year, this last year for deer, yeah.
Okay. And so how do you adjust that stuff, you know, for listeners that have kids and say, my kids are like Art and they don't have the patience and want to do this and that? You know, kind of run us through, how do you change things up?
Yeah, so just to kind of start things off with that, it's when so all of my kids so far have started coming hunt with me when they were 3. So, and basically I only took them early season, for deer hunting anyways. I'd take them early season when it's warm, so it's comfortable for them to be out there. You got to bring food, you got to bring something for them to do. And then also, you know, you're staying on the edges, you're trying to stay out, you know, like you said, I'm hunting more like food edges. I'm trying to stay in somewhere I can get in and out as easy as possible. Because even I do it with anybody, whether it's my dad or my kids. It's, I have a problem. I trying to listen as I'm going in, and if I hear any sticks break or leaves crunch behind me, I get upset, so it's like, it's not the end of the world. But that's kind of the one thing is, since I have such a high drive on wanting to my kids to succeed, and, as well as myself, it's like, you gotta learn to let things go at times. And sometimes there's been times when I first started taking my oldest, he was 4 at the time, and I took him into a spot, and I was like, well, we should see some does at least and get some deer action. And so I wanted to be out there it was like 2:00, I think. It was early season, so it doesn't get, late or dark until later. But so it was a good several hour sit, and it was like come down to the last hour, and by then he had played with his toys, he had eaten snacks, and he's like, Dad, I want to go. And inside me, I'm just like broken, like, no, I'm like, the deer are gonna move, but I've come to realize that you just kind of gotta let things go, and there's another day. You'll be able to go out another day. It's about making it enjoyable for them. So as long as they're enjoying it, you don't want to force somebody to do something that tends to what pushes people out of the sport anyways. So as far as my spots, the properties I have to hunt anyways, I try to find food, but sometimes there's not, so like the property I hunt by in Richland County, that one has some food, so we sit in these spots. Now, they're not always the best spots, but it gets them out there, it gets them excited, and stuff like that. And that's kind of the hard part about deer hunting, or any hunting, I would say, is getting them to see game. Like, they know that's why they're out there, and they're there to enjoy it as well. But if you're not seeing anything, that they are expecting you to see, because when you go hunting and they're at home and you come home with a deer or a turkey, they're thinking, oh man, that's got to be great. So they think, as a kid, they don't know it yet. You're going to go out there, you're going to see them all the time. It's like, unfortunately, that doesn't happen. But just making it comfortable for them and making it enjoyable. So,
yeah, and we, the experience you had and lesson you learned, having to leave the woods at the golden hour, right?
Yep.
It kind of reminded me of like our learn to hunt, to learn to hunts too. Cause we, our kids are grown and are adults, but, we're still taking, kids out on their first turkey hunts.
Yep.
And, I've had to remind Art, that, it's their hunt,
Right.
it's not his, it's not ours. And so you do have to sometimes, we are leaving the woods when things just might be getting good.
Right.
But it is about making it and so that they keep wanting to come back.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
We're in it for the long haul.
Right. Yeah.
It's not just
it's a long-term thing. And to go back to to not bring out my spots, I have some great spots, and unfortunately there's nothing that works in there beside the tree stand. Well, at a young age, I don't get my kids up in a tree stand because I just don't feel right, even with a safety harness, and if they're nervous doing it, I don't let them do it, or I don't want them to do it. So we tend not to hunt my, I guess, quote unquote best spots until then, and a lot of my good spots are rut spots anyway. So this year was the first year my son was taking my dad's crossbow, and we had no luck early season, didn't see any deer, and it's been a really slow year for that. But I had shot my buck, on Halloween this year, and took my dad in a week later, almost had him, get an 11-pointer, came in behind us, and unfortunately just didn't read the script. And then that buck, I was getting all over my camera, all over his 200-acre property. I'm like, well, he better hurry up and figure out something quick, because when gun season comes, there's more people that hunt there, and, they're just there for the meat, which is fine, and stuff like that, and so am I. But I was like, I'm going to try to get in there and get my boy on this deer. I know how he's showing in daylight. So the very first time we went down there, I took him down to the spot, and for some reason or another, I don't know what it is, but if I walk in that spot, whether I'm crashing through leaves or not, it's just a great spot. I don't kick deer out, and I'm sitting between 3-4 bedding areas, and it's like we see deer from the first half an hour of light till, usually 9-10 o'clock in the morning and stuff during the rut. Some days, I see them all day long. So the buck I shot last year, I saw 7 or 8 different bucks that day. It was every hour and a half I saw a different buck come through. So that was, a good sit and whatever. Yeah. But so we did that morning. We did see that 11-pointer, and I was trying to grunt him in for my boy, and he was pumped, and my heart was racing far more than his, because it is his first deer. I mean, if you go back and look at the footage from the first turkey he got, I was more amped up just because it was his first turkey. I don't want him to miss. I don't want him to, and solo filming and then trying to help him along with it as well. It's a process. I'm getting better at it, but it's a little hard, but you work through it. And my boy, we do a lot of practice with whatever weapon he's using, so he's very good on the gun, and I don't have to help him a lot with keeping his finger off the trigger and stuff like that. So he doesn't rush his shot. I tell him when he can take the shot, and usually it's he takes his time and makes a good shot. So he's been good with turkeys. He's ready to go this year. I know that again, but
cool. You've taught him well. So what's on the agenda for this year? Like, what are some things that you're like looking forward to teaching the kids this year? Like new skills, kind of advancing for them. What are you planning for this year?
This year, if you ask my 5-year-old, he's already shot like 50 deer and 50 turkeys, but he's that gung ho to go because he sees brother doing it, sees dad doing it. But for my oldest, basically, I'm looking forward to the youth hunt. I enjoy that now, more than just my regular season hunts. I enjoy going out and help my dad get his turkey. During this year, since my 5-year-old wants to go so bad, he'll be 6 in September, but they shoot BB guns all the time. He shot my 22 last year a few times, and I pretty much am going to have him shoot 22 all year this year, and then see how he grows as far as physical stature and stuff like that as well. My oldest uses a 410. It's minimal recoil. It's on a tripod, so it reduces it that much more. So I'm just looking forward to getting my 5-year-old shooting the 22 more and getting him more experience behind the gun, and hopefully he'll be on the same path as his brother as far as being really good with keeping his finger off the trigger and stuff like that, because he is so gung ho to go, and I know when you're that excited to go, it's like you're just amped up in the moment. So
yeah, you got to give him and having him shooting that 22, giving him something to work on and something to do. I'm sure he just wants to do everything that you and Big Brother are doing.
Yeah,
right?
Pretty much. And they go back and forth all the time about who's done what and who's gonna get what and whatever else. It's like it's between brothers, but even my daughter, I've been trying to get her to just be around a BB gun. Like I've had her shoot it a few times. Obviously it's nothing crazy, but just getting her to do it and see if she enjoys it mainly. So.
And again, like you said, it's all about them, and Michelle's kind of reminded me of that, and it sounds like you're taking the right path by, okay, not just, well, I want to hunt, so I'm going to let you hunt. You hear a lot of people say, well, yeah, I took my 5-year-old out last year, and, they got scared of the gun, or they got scared of this, where it sounds like you're taking those stepping stones and getting to that and doing it right to that. So that they enjoy it, and they learn that the right ways and the proper ways to do things. And again, like you said, it's about them. And like Michelle said earlier, she's reminded me of that more than once on our Learn to Hunts. And because I get frustrated, I hear birds talking or gobbling in the background. I'm like, you know what? If we sit here another 45 minutes to an hour, we're killing something. I want to go, And that reminds me of the one, this story, which I think is still one of our best stories. And so I've got to share it. And Michelle will giggle out of this too. So Michelle and I used to work with a foundation that his son shut down. And we would take special needs youth out bear hunting.
And turkey. Turkey and bear. I think this story's bear, now that I know what you're talking about.
Yes. And we had a young gentleman, very nice young man, but he wanted to always be playing with something, always eating something, always doing
he
something.
was, he had like ADD, ADHD, and some other things. As well. So he was like a challenging young man.
He was. But
we were up for the challenge.
We were. And so the first night we get into the blind, and we're not there 10 minutes. Art. Yes? When's bear coming in? Huh? He goes, when's bear coming in? I said, I don't know. Whenever the bear gets here, And he's like... Well, pretty soon he's found a squeak in his chair, so now he's got to make that.
He's
squeak.
rocking back and forth, so the chair is
I've been
squeaking.
through that.
Yeah, and then he found his boots squeak when he does something a certain way, so now he's got to do something with those, and then he's got to eat, and then he's got to drink.
And I think too, like when the bear's coming in is partly that there was trail cameras, on the bait, right? So, and the lady of the house, the owner of the house, she'd been keeping track. They both had, but she would keep track of what she was seeing out the window too. And so that and the cameras, we kind of had some pattern of like when this particular bear was often showing up, right? Or a range of time. So we get through this first night.
Well, yeah, the first night ends, thankfully, because we have a thunderstorm roll in.
Okay. I had forgotten that part.
Yeah,
okay, so we're saved by the storm.
Because he is, at this point,
there ain't no way a bear's coming in.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the loudest squeaks in the world, the loudest whatever. And Art, when's the bear coming in? Art wins, and I'm like, oh. And so it starts thunder and lightning. I'm like, we are saved. So we disappear.
So then, plan with the mom for the next day.
Yep. Quieter
and,
boots.
Different boots.
Different chair.
Yeah, that was the first thing. We need to get a chair that doesn't squeak. He can sit on my chair and get me a stool, whatever you have, and also something else for him to do to occupy his attention. So we kind of had a plan for improvements for the night too.
And go in later. That was the other thing.
Not so much time.
Not spend so much time. So we look at the trail cameras again, and we're like, okay, this bear has been coming at 5 to 5:30 every night. Well, that day we were in there at 3 o'clock. Well, the thunderstorm rolls in at 4:45, so we bailed just in time, right? So the next night we're going in at 4:45, 4:30. We're pushing it, to get settled, but we gotta do what we gotta do. So we get in there, and we're not there 15 minutes. Chair's not squeaking, boots are good, but he's already hungry. 15 minutes into it. And Art, when's bear coming? And I said, I don't know, buddy. On trail camera, it's 5:30, but it could be any time. Well, what time is it? Why did I tell him a time, right? So I'm like, it's 4:45. Okay. Should be coming. And I'm thinking, oh boy. So we're sitting there, 5 after 5. He says, hey, Art, when's the bear coming? I kid you not. I look out the window, and I see this bear about 250 yards away starting to walk down the trail to us. And I'm like, he's coming right now. He's like, really? So then
we were able to be like, shh, you gotta be quiet, And then, thank goodness, he hit the bear, right, too, because there had been some struggles, shoot the gun.
Yeah.
We'd ended on a high note, and he had a good shot for his last shot, but we were holding our breath.
Yes. And that's the other thing with this, is not as much time out there. Spend as little time as possible. Keep them occupied without, ruining your hunting spot. The other thing, like she said, is end on a high note if you're practicing. If they have an off day and they're shooting the 22s or they're shooting a shotgun or rifle or whatever, and they've missed 3 times, the 4th time they put it right in the bullseye where it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. Woohoo! Good job. Let's go.
Great job. Everything. End on that high note because that's what they think now. Now they think, hey,
they think they can hit it.
I'm
they
really
know they
good.
Can hit
I can do this. And so it's, they're the things that you really need to focus on to keep them occupied.
Yep.
And, and I learned that. And sometimes I think Michelle thinks that with me is she's trying to figure something out to keep me occupied in the tree because I'm like, and which is weird because I shouldn't say that. I can stay. There's certain things like at home or other projects that I'm doing, I just can't stay focused. I just can't. I've got too many things in my mind, too many things that I want to get done. But then when I'm in a tree, people are like, I don't know how you can sit in a tree from sun up to sundown.
That's helped.
Yeah, it's helped. The phone has helped some, but what's really helped is because there's spots out here that I can't get cell reception, that I can't get. So usually what I'm doing is if I'm on my phone, I'm either doing some type of work, talking to buddies, seeing how they're doing in a tree, or I'm checking other trail cameras around the farm.
Cameras, yeah.
Right.
That's what I'm doing, is to see if there's deer moving yet, if I should be getting ready, if all these things. But I think the other is there's so much stuff going on. Not only is it just deer, but there's birds to look at, there's squirrels, there's raccoons, there's all these different animals. The sunsets, to watch the sunsets, or the sunrise in the morning. So there's so many different things that are different than just sitting in front of a computer or sitting at home and getting bored doing that. That keeps you. That's why I like ice fishing. I can't stare down a hole for like 3 hours.
Yep.
Where in a boat I can move. For me, I would have to have a gas-powered auger because I'd be moving every 20 minutes.
that ice would be like Swiss cheese.
Gotta work out more.
Yeah, I'm like, no, this isn't. I'm out of here. I'm going to the next place.
Yeah.
So that's. So yeah, I think some of the things you brought up are great, and we need to do that, and we need to get more youth involved, get these kids, and not only youth, but more hunters involved. It's it's a dying number that I think we need to recruit more, and not only youth, but anybody. It doesn't matter what age they are. Get them recruited and get them out there and show them what it's like.
Yep.
And keeping it fun, and like what you were saying too, like all of the other things that might be out there that we can notice in nature. The non-game species and other things to keep it interesting and so that people gain an appreciation for all of those other things as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, that was one thing I started doing when I started taking my oldest first. I was out there too long, and less is more, I found out, and I'm like, well, the deer aren't moving until the last hour anyways. And why am I getting out here 4 hours ahead of that, So I started getting out like an hour or two before it. And then we had no problems. It started to get better and stuff like that. But yeah, my kids enjoy shooting, and they enjoy taking their targets back and showing Grandpa and whatever else.
Sure.
He enjoys seeing him do it too. Like, I think that's what he gets more joy out of now, is seeing me raise my kids into the same kind of way that he, raised me. Obviously, he never let me wear ear protection when I was out turkey hunting, or let me shoot a 410 for turkey. But we all learn in our own ways, and that's one thing. It's nice to be able to. I've found a lot of people that got gun shy on turkeys because they were overpowered. They didn't like shooting the gun. They may have been hitting the target, and then also your hearing protection was one thing as well.
Yep, keeping it safe and comfortable goes a long ways.
So you mean taking a 10 gauge and giving it to an 8-year-old and saying, "Suck it up, kid"? You're not supposed to do that.
I see videos of that online all the time, and I'm like, man, that kid's ruined. Like, that's
well, and I think if that's a good point. If you can, even if you have to find used or borrow from somebody, but hand me down gear just isn't always going to work or fit. Especially if you're for small children, small adults, small women, giving people the correct sized equipment and clothing can go a long way towards their enjoyment and their success.
Yeah.
I mean, big time. And that's why, and I think the companies and the manufacturers, same, have come to realize this. And that's why now you see, youth shotguns, you see the 410s, made for adults and youth. You see youth clothing coming out and boots, and there's more and more stuff being not only for youth, but the biggest demographics in hunting that's growing is women in the outdoors. And so you're starting to see more and more stuff made for women. So, as your daughter gets older and she wants to do this, she doesn't have to necessarily jump into, her brother's clothes or her brother's boots, things like that. They'll have their own stuff made and manufactured for her. Like even some of these shotguns. Michelle finally found a shotgun that is manufactured strictly for women, and I had to give up like 10 years of hunting.
Oh, please.
I had to save everything just to buy that one shotgun for poor Michelle.
Well, otherwise, what my options are children's guns, youth guns. So like underpowered, smaller, shorter guns, but with also shorter barrels.
Yeah.
Or, full size guns that are, too long for me.
Right.
To really hold well and aim well, or even shoulder, too, where then I'm, late in getting the gun ready and the shot off, especially, for the waterfowl hunting is where we first came to notice it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, and I've been hunting since I was 16, and, just now got a gun that was,
right.
That's made to fit women and do well. No, did I have some success? Sure I did. Mm-hmm. It was the waterfowl hunting where noticed.
It's very noticeable doing that.
Noticeable when you've got to quick shoulder the gun and get the shots off. It's taking me 3 attempts just to get the gun shouldered.
Right.
Because the stock's too long, and then you've got layers of clothing,
right.
too, in the way, all of those things. So, there's lots of new options that weren't available now that people can, get into, make things more enjoyable.
So my son uses just a basic pair of Walker's game ears, and he can hear me through them. But now, they have the kind that you can turn on and off, and I need to get a pair of those because they end up like I can whisper in like the quietest whisper ever, and you can hear it plain as day. And I've never tried it myself, so then when we tried them, I'm like, man, this is like a game changer.
Isn't it?
It's
hey, shoot that turkey over there. You don't have to holler at them.
Yeah, the instructions when you're trying to
instructions are key because I heard someone last year had that problem. They were trying to communicate, and the person had hearing gear on, and it wasn't communicated properly, and there was some miscommunication on shooting a deer, and that can happen. But especially when you're in the heat of the moment, the kid's like, "Oh yeah, I'm getting this deer," or whatever else. So
right,
but
yeah,
and it's and the Walker's game ears are game changers. There's so many different types, but you got to be careful because I had bought a set that actually were Bluetooth. Didn't really pay attention to what it was, right? And so I've got these in, and I'm out pheasant hunting one day and walking through, and all of a sudden the phone starts ringing. And I'm like looking around, and I'm asking guys, I'm like, hey, would you guys shut your phone off or quit? And they're like, all right, that's your phone. I'm like, what do you mean? And, so because it's Bluetooth, now it's ringing in my ears while I'm out there hunting. And so you have to kind of think about that and be careful.
Kind of do the technology.
Yeah, you got to know the technology. And I'm not, technology, is not good to me. And I'm like, I just need the dumbest ones that work. And these were like, these are cool. I'm going to buy these. And then I was like, what the heck am I doing? If I would have been deer hunting,
yeah,
at that time, and all of a sudden this big deer comes walking down the trail and ring, ring. All of a sudden, I'd be like, somebody shut off their phone, watch a deer run away, and it's my own phone. So, as they say, get the technology that you know how to use. And there's a ton of, and that's why I think like the Walker stuff is so great because there's so many different ones. There's earbuds you can put in. There's, the muffs that cover. There's, some that deaden the sound, some that amplify the sound, some that there's no sound amplification at all in them. So yeah, check them all out. There's a ton of different ones, especially for,
and kid sizes too.
Yeah, for
kid
the
sizing.
kids.
Yeah.
Well, I think we covered a lot of information today. I want to thank Derrick for joining us, and we hope that the listeners picked up some tips on how to get kids out in the woods and out in the field and enjoying the outdoors, as well as new adult hunters. It's all about getting outside and enjoying it and having a good time. We hope this helps you own the season.
Thanks for listening.
Check back weekly for new episodes.